And hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host Keegan. And this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And today we have a very special guest because he does something that a lot of people don't really understand too much, and that is, well, psychedelics. And he's an expert on them. So, Jeremy Van Wert, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to having a really awesome conversation about this incredible field that is really opening up that honestly our society has been robbed of for such a long period of time. And we've been often taking medications that are insufficient for the things that we actually need, real healing, instead of, just kind of covering over some symptoms. So I'm looking forward to it.
Sweet. Well, real quick, before we dive too far into like psychedelics and stuff, what is a psychedelic for someone that may not know what it is?
Sure. I guess the basic explanation of it is you being able to take a medicine that allows you to have a different experience of your consciousness, to walk outside of the normal, everyday thoughts that you have. So think of your day, the way that you think, as a highway that you travel every single day. And we know that highway, we know what exits we take. We fix our coffee in the morning. We fix our sandwich that we're going to have for lunch. We answer the emails. We have certain thoughts that we have, so-and-so at work kind of ticks me off. I think this thing about myself. I'm a failure. I'm too fat. I'm stupid, whatever it is. And the psychedelic allows you to connect different parts of your brain, like you're connecting a giant interstate system in your mind, and you can start traveling through other spaces of your mind, connect other creative ideas about yourself. And these creative spaces can be creating new identity, new realities for yourself. They can be mystical. They can be connecting with old trauma and forgiving yourself. You can hear colors. You can smell sounds. You can be in a dimension where you feel like, my God, I'm connecting with other dimensional beings. There's certain psychedelics that can allow for that. But deep down, the reason why these are so tremendously effective is that in our civilization that we're living in now, it's a very tangible civilization. It's one where everything that we do is action and consequence, and we drive cars and we write on papers, and everything's very in this world, whereas the psychedelic medicine world is one that takes you to a different world that is accessible to you that we don't often travel on. Quite honestly, it's not an uncommon belief about psychedelics that those who are attempting to hold our civilization together from the top have been kind of really hitting the brakes on psychedelics, because the psychedelic makes people look at things in a more creative way. When you're declaring war on other nations and your young people are going, I'm not going to go fight that because it's really stupid, and I'm not that stupid, my life is worth more than that. And there's more to this world than just fighting other people. You've lost control of a compliant population. And so they've had a difficult time gaining prominence because you have big pharma, which has the prevailing monopoly on what is considered wellness. And you have a civilization that is fighting for its own authority. So that's my answer to a question that I forgot already.
I believe the question was, what are psychedelics? And that is a very psychedelic answer. I love it.
Yeah, it kind of is, huh?
But there's something you actually said at the very beginning of it that struck me super deep, because you said that psychedelics are a medicine that you ingest or that you take, and not just a substance. That tells me that your viewpoint, your relationship with that is not just something that is like all willy-nilly, but you respect it and you understand it and you really want to just cultivate it for its best uses for everyone.
Yeah. And psychedelics has the ability to be different things to different people. Sometimes, being at a great show and being on MDMA can be really a lot of fun, but it also has this ceremonial aspect to it that you can really get so much more out of it. And I have been getting more and more involved in a Mexican church called Pachamama Sacred Paths, and they do retreats all over the Western United States. And it's an ayahuasca-based Andean cosmology church. And so the concepts that are taught in all of this is that this medicine, it is not just simply something you do and walk on in your life. This is a path to a much deeper spiritual understanding of what your soul actually is and how you relate to the ascended masters of enlightenment. Everybody from Saint Raphael to Archangel Michael to the Christ consciousness to Buddha and these different ascended masters. And the way in which we get so caught up in this kind of tangible world that we let go of the mystical nature of ourselves. And the mystical nature of ourselves, a lot of that can be the key to deep-seated healing. Because, one of the key elements of deep-seated healing is the ability to forgive yourself. Yeah. Now we speak in Judeo-Christianity about we ask for your forgiveness as we forgive you, right? Yeah. Now that's a very good thing. It's also kind of an ego-based consciousness. I'm saying, Keegan, I'm going to forgive you, and I just ask you to forgive me too. But what isn't talked about in the Lord's Prayer is the importance of the forgiveness of self, because there's so much that we carry with us. Old traumas, old ideas, the way in which we talk to ourselves in ways that are negative, where the medicine can take us to a space where we can recognize just how deeply loved we actually are by Mother Earth, Father, Son, by whatever it is that your philosophical and spiritual framework is when you kind of walk into this experience. But when you can feel that deep love and actually learn to forgive yourself for ways in which we all kind of beat ourselves up for one thing or another, then that is one of the base level steps to developing your spirit in a positive way. And so, yes, the wonderful reverence towards particularly the plant-based medicines in this, it's such a great way to get the most out of it and to understand the humble heart that you really should be having with this medicine that can really, really do amazing things to you.
Yeah, that humble heart. I think a humble heart is just good to have in general, right? And there's a lot to unpack with psychedelics in the first place. So real quick, I do see something behind you, and it is something that I did forget to mention in the very beginning, but it's the Mindful Mutiny podcast. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, I'm the host of the Mindful Mutiny podcast, and I talk about people's incredible heroic journey through this life, people's incredible stories, psychedelics, ADHD, lots of different incredible people who have wonderful things to say, and a lot of talk about ayahuasca too.
Man, and all through my years, that is the one that I want to try that because I know what it's about, but it's I've never been able to travel to go do that. And
now, one of the key phrases in the psychedelic world is the phrase set and setting. And when you're going to a real well-trained shaman, or Pampamasaic or Hempeg that has been trained and is ready to serve this medicine, you have somebody who has done a ton of study, a ton of the work in the medicine, a person who knows their light and their dark. They understand their own ego, and they understand also how to love and care for you when maybe some of your shame is coming out, maybe when you're confronting some sort of old abuse that happened to you, maybe when you're seeing yourself for the first time and having an emotion about that, to have somebody that is tremendously well trained to be with you in that work, it is worth the time, the effort, and the money for somebody who has been there, who has cared for many people before you, who has seen the kind of shame and agony or incredible happiness that you're going through and can keep you grounded. I mentioned Pachamama Sacred Paths. They do the ayahuasca work within the United States. So, you don't necessarily need to get a passport and go to Peru if you don't want to, but you certainly can. It's a great thing to do. But what I've found in these workers is that they understand what kind of spirit is going on in the room. And so when things are feeling a little bit off in the room, they will burn Palo Santo, like right at the moment. And it just like, bang, you're like back in yourself. And you've got this experience where you're like, okay, I'm going to now start going out again. And they know how to care for you when you are maybe not feeling physically well with the medicine. So having the right people around you, because I've heard a lot of people who show up with medicine, mushrooms, like whatever, here, take what you want. Somebody who's not had any experience with it, you just pop a bunch of mushrooms in your mouth. All of a sudden, like an hour later, you're tripping balls. You don't know how long it's going to last. You don't have anybody who's going to care for you the next day and do the integration work with you and talk about the giant grizzly bear who chased you through the forest last night. And so having somebody who can be there with you is really, really a key to having a positive experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I know for my personal self, I've definitely had moments where it's like, the setting was definitely not good and made everything bad. But at the same time, I was in a younger state of mind. So it was just party, have fun, try to get out of myself. It wasn't like trying to find healing in that. But at the same time, in the moment, I could definitely tell that there was something going on, but there was something that was like, it just escaped me. But what you're saying right now is telling me that there are people that know all about trips, all about their inner selves and other people's inner selves and how it all kind of works and the nature, the natural world, the spirit world and everything else that's intertwined. And these people are able to say, hey, like, this is going to be more along the lines of where you need to go. But you were talking about the day after, someone to walk you through the integration.
Yeah.
But you also said something else about people not being able to just do a bunch of mushrooms and have no idea how it's going to affect them. And that's a lot of people's first experiences with psychedelics, right?
Yes.
And so that turns a lot of people off from it forever, but it feels like a disservice to that person, right? Because they should kind of want to try it again because there's so much beauty in it.
Yes.
Like, what do people need to do? Because, I mean, it's something that is available, it's natural. And so why shouldn't people be able to find inner healing through it?
Yes. Number one, if you've had an experience that you really feel like, I don't know what the hell just happened in my life. I just saw this thing. It was glowing. It was chasing me. I still feel scared of it. You need integration. And I do that. You've had the experience, contact me, go to mindfulmutiny.com, have a consultation with me. I'd love to work with you on doing the integration that, maybe somebody handed you something at a party, you took it and you're like, whoa, I need to process this. But I'll give you a good example. It's many, many years ago at the beginning of my journey with this medicine. Buddy and I decided it was a great idea to just get a bunch of mushrooms and then just eat them. And then, of course, you're 40 minutes later, like, you feel something? No, I don't feel it. Let's eat more, right? And then all of a sudden, so I'm grieving every single thing in my life that ever went wrong. I'm going through like a box and a half of Kleenex, just crying my eyes out of everything that ever I was hurt by, and it was a wonderful cry and I needed it. But then it became really intense to the point where it was 1:03 in the afternoon. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to be sober now. I need to be okay. All right. So what do I do to be okay? I'm going to clean this kitchen. So I start cleaning the kitchen. I spend 20 minutes cleaning the kitchen. I look back up at the clock. It's still 1:03. And I'm like, I don't know. No time passed. And I'm looking at my hand and I'm going, am I dead? I think I might be dead. And then I turn on some music because music kind of grounds me. And it was, I like metal. Don't listen to metal. No. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I'm listening to YYZ and I'm like, that's not grounding me. That's not good energy. And so, like 5 minutes later, I'm crying on my neighbor's deck because I'm like, I think I'm dead, and so, I realized later when I am now okay. It's all worn off. And
Huh.
I had to do this work on my own to figure out why was that so hard for me. And the
Uh-huh.
thing for me was I really had a difficult time not being in control. I had a difficult time in not being able to tangibly use my brain right now. And that lack of control destabilized me. And I needed that control in order to feel like I was in charge of my life instead of just going, I'm going to enjoy the beautiful
Mm-hmm.
space that I'm in right now. I'm going to go outside and I'm just going to commune with a tree. I didn't
Mm.
have the maturity in me, the strength in me to just go, it's okay. I'm going to be flying now for another couple of hours and I'm going to be okay. It became very uncomfortable for me because I was unexperienced with the
Mm.
medicine and I didn't have somebody to sit me down and go, you're fine. The cats have been fed. They all have water. They're sleeping. You're okay. And so if I had had that calm hand, that day would have been a more enjoyable thing.
Mm.
And I wouldn't have embarrassed myself in front of my neighbor. But that's really the power of having somebody there that can kind of trip sit with you or hold
Mm.
the sacred space with you, and so that when you become distressed, you have the ability to go, am I okay? I need a hug. I need somebody to touch me. I
Mm-hmm.
need to be held because I feel like my mother didn't hold me enough, or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that can be the power of that. And if you've had a distressing experience and you wonder, why was that so hard? Why did I think that I was dead? And I, in great fear of my own mortality because of it,
Mm-hmm.
you might need somebody like me who can speak to you about that because it's very real experiences. You really are in a dimension where you are questioning your own ability, whether you're alive or not. and
Mm-hmm.
and we can do some sessions to help you integrate what it was that you went through and why that upset your ego so badly.
Ooh, wow. First of all, thank you for sharing that experience with us because even though I know that was not a pleasant trip in the moment, it does make for a funny story. But you're saying that integration can be done after the fact, not just the day after?
Yes, I mean it is truly the best if you're going to do a high dose thing, that
Mm-hmm.
you're walking into it having set your intention. You have goals of what you want, and then maybe
Mm-hmm.
the mushroom, maybe Mother Aya takes you
Mm-hmm.
somewhere else, but at least you walk in with that humble heart going, plant, teach me.
Mm-hmm.
I am yours. Love me. I need it. And then you have a facilitator or shaman that can work with you in the after of how do you
Mm-hmm.
take this high frequency that you are operating in the medicine and make it so that you operate more at that frequency in your life instead of I got high a couple of weekends ago and it was hella cool. uh, you know that you likely learned things in that you want to retain.
Mm-hmm.
How is your life different now? How does it change who it is that you are? And so it's not the best thing per se to not have a guide. You have a freak out experience and then you have to call somebody like me later because you don't know what the hell happened in your brain. It's not the worst thing in the world. We can work with that. It's best if you are in touch with somebody like me beforehand and we work with
Mm-hmm.
you through it. But I had a friend who just very recently went through a bufo or 5-meo DMT experience. Oh yes, beautiful, beautiful medicine. And for those of you who don't know how this one works, it is one where you smoke the medicine through a pipe, you
Mm-hmm.
breathe it in, you hold it, and then you lay back. And by the time that your head hits the pillow, you might already be gone. And so somebody often holds you as you go back. And when you are gone, this is a very intense out for between 10 to 20 minutes where you are gone. You are in a different space. You're communing with other things, and it can be a really loving, wonderful experience. And my got the opportunity to actually sit with and say goodbye to his father in the way that he was not allowed, he didn't get the chance to in this life. And he, so after this experience, he's sitting in the parking lot in his car, sending me like a 20-minute message talking about how his life is completely different now. He actually got a chance to sit with his father and say, "I love you, and I miss you so badly, and I can't wait to see you again." And this experience of being able to sit in that masculine presence of his father and just love on him, because every man knows that when you lose your father, you lose the one man in this life who wants to see you do better than him. And that was certainly the case in this space. And he was able to actually have that closure that he felt was so missing in his life. And so my question to him was, how does this change who you are? What is the change in your life? And the wonderful thing is that he had sat with this incredible shaman who was very well trained. And she had been working with him on this, and he was able to answer, I feel a greater sense of love for others. I feel a great sense of responsibility to the people around me, and I feel at peace with my father in a way that I wasn't before. A beautiful gift that the medicine can give you. And so the medicine itself, each one of them has a different personality, has a little bit of a different feel, and they can be really good for a lot of different brain abnormalities that it will just say anxiety, trauma, depression, ADHD, particularly with a well-trained guide, can really be a game changer.
Wow. So psychedelics can help out neurospicy?
Yeah. And so I think that the way that I would explain it for me is that my brain is a constant 3-ring circus. It's just a tornado of ideas, and there's, it's music, it's traffic cones that are flying around, it's a truck that's going around, and music and everything. And so to have all of that stop, and for me to be able to just simply sit in beauty and colors and have visions that are very real, and to focus on mindfulness, it's a game changer for me, because I recognize that my brain does have the ability to actually focus for long periods of time on my own wellness and spiritual transcendence, which is very, very difficult often for the person who has like a lot of ADHD. Because doing mindfulness and meditation, for me, I really need guided meditation. I need words to guide me. Now you're going downstairs. Now we're counting. Now you're breathing. Now you're holding. Now you're letting it out. I'm like, okay, I'll do this. And so that the medicine provides for me a space where, and I retain these things that I experience, where it can feed into my mindfulness and meditation life, and so that I can hold my attention for longer in this spiritual plane.
Oh, wow. So real quick, I want to kind of bounce back to your friend and his experience, because there was something there that just highlighted something that you said earlier that I really wanted to talk about. And that was the whole fact that what's going on during the trip, what's going on during the experience, rather, is entirely real to that person. 100%, right?
Yes.
And there's no telling someone that it's not.
Yeah. And yeah, the simple answer is yes, because the experience is profound and tangible, and really not easily explainable, because for some reason, LSD gives me telepathy, and I can see things that are going to happen to me. And I can see what people are going to do around me. And that's a pretty amazing thing. I can see the future. And I've done it a couple of times on LSD. People who come back from a bufo experience often, and I haven't experienced this, speak to entities that are extraterrestrial in nature. And I don't know what that's like, because I've not experienced that sort of thing, but try and tell those people that what they experience is not real, because they've had discussions with entities that have different personalities than them. It's not like a piece of them talking back to them, and so oftentimes you have the ability to communicate with, in ayahuasca with Mother Aya, who comes to you in some form. And it's often in a form that's not like in the form of a woman that's standing near you, but you can feel her. And, these experiences, they go back beyond written history. And so
Yeah.
that's why these experiences are so quintessential to the human experience, because they're carved into caves.
Mm.
They're hieroglyphics that you can see that people have been having these transcendent experiences with other entities, with other worlds, with spirits for beyond written history.
Yeah. And it's crazy because everything just kind of adds on to the just not plausibility, not the maybe believability for some people, but it's kind of like how can you tell someone about it unless they experience it, because and I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to say is that you have to experience a trip, a good experience, to know what you're really talking about, right?
Yeah, and thanks for refocusing that question, because I think I went down the football field a ways. I think the spirit of that question is about, and I have this issue in my life where there are people in my life who don't understand what I do. And I'm talking about like family members. They don't really understand it. And maybe it's disturbing enough to them that they don't really want to understand it. I have people who are in my life who are relatively religious people that for them, this is really off the wall. Family members who, I've listened to my podcast, Mindful Mutiny, when I am doing interviews, much like this one. Family members going, yeah, I listened to like the first 15 minutes, but I just couldn't even like really understand what it was that was being talked about. So I kind of turned it off. And that's okay. Not everybody's into everything.
No.
But there is a certain amount of conditioning and brainwashing, I guess, that there has been throughout the last century about what these medicines are. Certainly, like I grew up in the Nancy Reagan era where we all had Dare shirts and we all had Just Say No hats and all of these kinds of things. And these sacred medicines were lumped in with methamphetamine and all sorts of things that are certainly by no means sacred medicines.
Oh no.
And all kind of lumped into the same circle as bad. And so, yes, there's a certain discretion in understanding who is interested, who is freaked out by it, and who may have a certain essence of religiosity that precludes them from seeing this as a legitimate thing. And, it's okay. You kind of have to like monitor your own ego and register that, not everybody is a super fan.
So, real quick question though, with the Mindful Mutiny podcast, are you actually trying to like help end the stigma on psychedelics? Because if that's not part of your goal, I think it really should be, because there's so much good that comes from them that it's silly that it can grow and it's quote unquote bad.
Yeah, it is definitely, I'm just one little piece of sand in the universe that's trying to walk this forward. And there's very, very powerful forces that are working against this. And, in my view of this, these are very dark forces that are trying to work against it. These are forces of an elite class that has a certain amount of power and authority. And profit share and all of that sort of stuff. And they're able to influence the gatekeepers of the FDA. And, the FDA was within the last year, these fine established physicians that sit on the board at the FDA came out and said, well, there's just not enough study done on MDMA. We just don't know enough about it. The study is not rigorous and everything. And it turns out that the people who came to speak against MDMA to this panel of physicians, they were all paid actors to speak against it. Who paid them? You got to like follow the money on all that sort of stuff. But there's very dark forces that are working against this, that are often based in wanting people to remain unwell. And the answer to the end of the last study always is, well, we've got to do more studying on this. And so we've got big pharma, and their medicines are 100 years old. And you've got this plant-based medicine that is thousands upon thousands upon thousands of established years old that, are veterans, for God's sake. We put these young men and women in harm's way to fight wars that don't make any sense. And then when they come home, the VA is ill-equipped to provide the kind of ongoing care that these poor young people need. And so they're going to Mexico and Peru to do this medicine and finding great comfort in the medicine, in the incredible shaman who are able to help them with this. And the medicine that I am licensed in the United States to work with people on is ketamine. That is a federally legal substance that I, as a licensed clinician, am able to work with people on. I work with a clinic called Journey Clinical. Person gets evaluated. They prescribe the medicine from a pharmacy. It gets mailed to them. And then, I work with them individually with that medicine. And, the hope is that licensed clinicians will be able to work with MDMA, work with psilocybin, work with some of these other substances with the right amount of training. And in my estimation, I think it is critically important for those licensed clinicians who are walking into this space to just be drinking up as much information as there is about the mystical side of this, the ceremonial side of this. You need to know, what is a despacho? What is holding space? What is a chakra? How do you hold space for people who are going into a liminal space that your master's degree has not prepared you to deal with? So there's got to be a lot of study, a lot of in-person work. You have to do the medicine yourself. And there's a lot of clinicians that are going, wow, this is really amazing. My client has been stuck for so long, and now they're moving along because they've had, a MDMA experience, they've had a mushroom experience, or a ketamine experience.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so you're actually able to work with people and actually, not diagnose, but you can actually sit there and do the integrations and everything like that. The first question that comes to mind with that is it only within the state that you're in?
So my license for therapy is a California license.
Okay.
And so this work does need to be done in the state of California. But what I also want to do is talk with people who are interested in this medicine, who want to know where to go, what to do, how to remain safe. So, mindfulmutiny.com, if you want to talk about this stuff that you're not familiar with, and we can talk about what might work for you.
Wow. Okay. So everyone out there definitely need to stop by, because I know I'm going to stop by because there's a lot of integration work that I could definitely have done. But, and so that kind of leads me to my next question, though, was integrations and everything, because hang on. I actually had 4 other questions before that. Man, there's a lot to unpack here. But first, real quick, I do have one question I like to ask people, because our episodes are limited to an hour. Do you think we could see you for a second episode to follow up on psychedelic integrations and everything like that? Because, again, there's a lot that I want to ask, and I don't think we're going to get it in this episode.
I'm honored to be asked by you to do that. I would love to come back.
Okay, so, and then that brings me right back to the guided meditations. Do you also find yourself, even in guided meditations, going now we're going this way now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, good. It's not just me.
No, it's very normal. And so I'm going to get into a little bit of my kind of ADHD talk here.
Okay.
There's your brain as a person with ADHD. It's just simply unique, and you have to kind of understand how it works and how it's different. There's really awesome music that is very helpful for you when you need to do hyper focus. Number one, you got to shut off your phone and have turn off your notifications if you really need to focus on things.
Okay.
And search for on YouTube or Apple Music or what have you, ADHD music. And there's sounds that are white noise, and I can't really make it, but it's this noise that can just be, and it goes up and down and up and down. And then sometimes they put it behind pulsing music, synthwave music that's not terribly distracting. And what it does is it blocks out a lot of the extraneous thought so that you can just focus on reading the email, getting through the task, focusing on what it is that you need to do. And it's hypnotic. Okay. And so, when you're talking about having a difficult time in the actual meditation state and going,
Yeah.
even with a guided meditation, I sometimes walk out and walk back in. Again, that's self-forgiveness for you to just go, yeah, okay, I'm back now. It's okay. I don't have to be perfect. And learning what kind of music your brain is really stimulated by, and blocking out the distractions, the text alerts and stuff like that, so that you can actually get stuff done instead of just constantly being distracted by new stuff.
Huh, that's really interesting. I'm going to have to look into some ADHD music myself, but that makes me ask the question, like, how much thought is sound and how much sound is thought?
There's a question I've never been asked. And so I think what I can say is that, the regular person kind of can focus, pinpoint, and vertically, and we focus horizontally. And it's why when we're on a walk, we can usually spot wildlife, because we have the hunter brain. We're constantly like scanning. And I think we're scanning sounds too.
Yeah, because I'm always doing like a sonar kind of thing. Like, if I hear something, where was it?
I'm monitoring the sounds that my dog is making while she's sleeping on the floor here, and thinking about that, and I have to like move my attention back to you because I'm constantly scanning for those sounds.
Yeah.
That's just a normal thing.
Okay, so I may need to really, really go get diagnosed for ADHD, because it's one of those things. Growing up, I was always like, I'm pretty sure I have this, and my parents were like, no. And then now it's like, I'm pretty sure I have this, and my dad's like, yeah, you have it. And I'm like, well, it would have been nice to like get treated or something a little bit sooner. And so now I'm kind of playing this catch-up game, and it feels like a lot of people are playing the catch-up game. Is that kind of your experience dealing with this kind of stuff at the moment?
Late diagnosed ADHD is a real thing, and it can be, number one, a real relief, and particularly this happens with women, because I know that I was a spaz. I was all over the classroom, and so I took up a lot of the space, whereas girls had a better ability to be quiet, but they daydreamed, and so they didn't get anything out of the educational part of things, but they were quiet. So the teacher was looking at me, and they kind of maybe later in their life came to, gosh, I've got ADHD too. And so, okay, now I'm going back to the question. The question was late diagnosis for and so when you kind of start going down the rabbit hole on ADHD stuff, it can be a real comfort to understand, that's why I do that. I sleep and I do the claw when I sleep. I wake up every night at like 3 a.m. just thinking about nothing in particular, and I can't go back to sleep. Listen to everything on 2.5 times because that's as fast as my auditory processing actually is. Nobody else can understand it because it sounds like a chipmunk, but I'm getting every single word. Those kinds of things. And that sometimes we're not all that good of knowing how we come off. We're sometimes a little bit too honest about things, and some people don't appreciate that. And then all of a sudden, somebody at work's pissed off at you, and you go, why is that person such a jerk? And you realize it's because for them, maybe you said something at some point that just kind of hit them wrong or something like that. So understanding that piece of you, it can also help you in your relationships, because sometimes we can look directly in somebody's eyes and they can be telling us something and we didn't hear a friggin' word they said, and we're focused on different stuff. And then we're kind of embarrassed to admit that we didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
And so we have to be able, with our significant others, to go, I'm super sorry, this is not personal. I need to just start again.
Man, yeah, no, all that just sounds like super on point and right up there. And I'm like, yeah, and there's some other things. Like, here's one that I read online, and then I was like, wait a minute. And then I was like, surely that's not me. And then it happened, and I was like, oh, and it was procrastinating going to the restroom.
And drinking water.
Yeah. What is with that? What is with that? Like, or even eating sometimes. I'm like, I don't need to eat. Like, I still got energy but the water and using the restroom for some reason, nope, I can procrastinate those until it's like, oh yeah, no, I should have been with that a long time ago. But it's weird. It's very weird.
This is super real. I didn't really realize that my father had ADHD until much later in my life, because he's a very accomplished man and he's able to like hyper focus on certain things. And he had a really amazing career at
Mm-hmm.
NASA. So
Oh.
yeah, that's a whole different story. He's an amazing guy, but he would go for hours and hours and hours, and just wouldn't think of eating. And so he's
Mm-hmm.
an elderly man now, and he's didn't drink anything all day long. Was watching a Portland parade and just
Mm-hmm.
fainted. And when he was asked, when was the last time you had something to drink, he couldn't even remember. When he had anything to drink. It's just
Mm-hmm.
because we get so in our head thinking about things and checking our phone and we're looking at social media and watching brain rot, and we don't think about how much our body needs. And it's a little gross, but it's just the way,
Mm-hmm.
when you're going to the restroom, smell your pee. If it's stinky, you need to go drink, my
Look
friend.
at the look at the color.
Yeah, look at the color. And for me, I drink like full meal replacement stuff in the morning. So I know
Hmm.
what nutrients I'm getting. I got the banana
Mm-hmm.
and the blueberries, and it's the same thing every single morning. And I know that I'm good. I don't forget to
Mm-hmm.
eat. It's a
Yeah.
routine.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I've had to remind myself about a lot
Yeah.
more lately. And it's also kind of weird. And this may require some actual like psychiatric diagnoses, but I was on mood stabilizers for a little while. And then I noticed my emotions weren't in full swing.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I was like, great, I'm not this again because I like my emotions. Even if they are paralyzing or whatever, I want to feel what my body actually wants to feel. So I tapered off the medicine and I started feeling all good again. But now I swear my ADHD is like 10 times worse. It's weird. And it's not all of it, it's just certain aspects. And eating and keeping hydrated is one of them.
And so the interesting thing about what you're talking about is ADHD and mood instability. We
Hmm.
have the ability to get really down on ourselves or really pissed off at things and not let it go. It's a real character flaw that we have. We tend to carry anger for a really long period of time. And it's not that anger is always a bad thing, but
Hmm.
when we get so angry that we're harboring that for a very long period of time, it often comes from a deep-seated hurt that we've
Mm.
experienced rejection over and over and over. We're tired of being rejected, whatever that is, but we can get really pissed really quick. And so being able to take something
Hmm.
that's an actual healing medicine that can help
Hmm.
us not just forget our emotions, because that's not a great thing, but be able to feel good and have the full spectrum of emotion, because we're going to
Hmm.
grieve. We're going to feel happy. We're going to feel
Hmm.
elated. We're going to feel disappointed.
Hmm.
It's just that we have to feel it in moderation and not just lose ourselves in it.
Yeah, for sure. And so you're saying something that actually lines up with someone that I interviewed a couple months ago. And his name is Dr. Fred Moss. And he is really against big pharma. And he is a psychiatrist and everything. But he straight up told me that the medicine will sit there and take away things from myself. And I won't realize that they're going away. And whenever we had this conversation, I was like, I don't know. And I had already been on my mood stabilizers for about 2 years at that point. And I really started reflecting. And that's whenever I was like, my emotions aren't all the way tuned in anymore. They're numb. And so that's whenever I was like, okay, so I take that out of the equation. I'm feeling better. So now we got this weird thing going on. And now you pop up and it's plant medicine. And it's just something that I've always been an advocate for. And so now my question is like, a lot of people like the whole idea of a pill because it can be one and done, or it's one a day or two a day. So whenever someone wants to do some psychedelic work, some inner healing, integrations, stuff like that, it's not just one and done, is it?
No, obviously I'm going to tell people to consult a physician for,
Mm-hmm.
their health and everything like
Mm-hmm.
this. But also there's a naturopaths and wonderful psychedelic specialists that can also help with understanding how much of what.
Mm-hmm.
Not all medicines are created equal.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are really into the world of ayahuasca,
Mm-hmm.
they do it on a semi-regular clip. Now, we all know that somebody can do 300 ayahuasca trips and still be a jerk, but there's the integrating the humility into yourself is really the most important thing. I do, a heroic dose of, ayahuasca, one of these like retreat weekends on about every 6 months, because I want that period of time in order to integrate the new me into me. The last big message for myself was just simply to believe that I am all I need, not to keep trying to pretend to be some greater version of me, but just to sit in me, that I don't need to be anything more, it's enough for me to be me. I don't need any more initials behind my name. I don't need any more of that, to simply be the greatest me.
Yeah.
It feels rather simplistic, but it is also profound. And that's been my takeaway that I've had to integrate into my life in this 6 months to really believe in that version of me. So some people will want microdosing or need microdosing. Some people will want periodic heroic doses. Some people will want MDMA. Some people will want ayahuasca or Nino Santos or 5-MeO-DMT. They're the different ones, the different dosages is unique to what the person needs out of the medicine.
That is really good to know, because that way someone doesn't just go, I want this, and they just choose something from a random wheel or pick something out of a hat, rather, because it may not be very good. Oh man, there was a question. Oh no, it was a really good one too. No.
No, you're doing great.
I'll just write it down, and there we go. That's going to be the best way to do that. And man, I wish my ADHD was actually treated a little bit.
This is a really like normal moment. And, so how do I deal with this? Because I deal with this sort of thing all the time. And, I've got 4 screens looking at me right now. And whenever I've got, I'm interviewing somebody and I realize that I didn't, flip the mattress upstairs, I have an actual to-do list on this screen over here. And I just type flip mattress, like whatever it is, because I know that thought will be gone. I have to write these things down. And I love the ding sound when I do the thing. And so, yeah, I use the technology to help me follow through on the things and finish things instead of just start them.
Oh, so you just said the follow through word and finish the F words.
Yep.
Oh, don't say the F words. But that actually makes me ask one more question before we get to the last little bit of the show, because I just looked at the time and I'm like, holy crap, this is going to suck to edit, because I have to keep it within a certain time frame. Because we actually have a new little thing we're going to try on retrieving sanity, and it's a little bit of a game segment. So for our first game, here we go. Keep in mind, this is really, really rough. Retrieving Sanity presents Mental Health Mythbusters, Psychedelic Edition. So, Jeremy, I'm going to hit you with some spicy statements. And why don't you tell me if they're truth or myth, and why? Possibly. 1. Anyone can be their own guide with enough intention.
Myth. I would say after a certain period of time, when you become familiar with the medicines, then perhaps you're on a better footing. However, it's always a good idea to have somebody there with you in case you start to become distressed.
So perfect. Love it. 2. You shouldn't use psychedelics if you've experienced trauma.
False. You should use psychedelics if it's right. There's a lot of different, it's not a black or white. Psychedelics can do an amazing thing with your brain in classifying the trauma and helping you put meaning on it, get over it, self-forgiveness, and it can do amazing things for people who are having a very difficult time dealing with old or new trauma.
I love that one too. Number 3. All plant medicine is safe because it is natural.
I'm going to have to go with myth on that one, because dosage is important, knowledge of the medicine is important, understanding toxicity levels and what medicine you're on right now. If you're on an SSRI, it may be counterindicated to do some various forms of plant-based medicine. So I would say talk to experts.
Perfect. Number 4. Integration is where the real healing happens.
Oh, absolute truth with this one. The medicine does a million wonderful things, but afterwards is when you really hit the rubber on the road and you integrate that high frequency into your life so that it was something that you can get the greatest amount of benefit from.
And number 5, if you've had a bad trip, it means the medicine did not work.
False. The challenging journey is something that you can learn from. Why did the bear chase you? Why were you afraid of time? Why are you afraid of death? Why are you afraid of disorder? Why is it that you saw something that disturbed you when you thought about your work while you were in the medicine? You need to process that and understand what's going on deep down in you. The bad trip is as valuable as the euphoria and the beauty.
Right on. Number 6, psychedelic therapy is just a trendy spiritual bypass.
False. Full statement.
Good.
Would just say that I think it's very important that whoever you're doing it with, whether it's a licensed clinician or a shaman, really understand where that person was trained. You have to vibe with the person. You have to trust. It's a great deal of trust with the person that you are working with. If you're going to be doing the medicine with this person, you have to understand what role does touch play in it. It should be talked about beforehand. Are you comfortable being touched? One of my things is that I will hold my hand out and you can touch my hand, so that there's a really strong delineation of what is appropriate touch during this, because touch can be very, very important, but also something that can, be complicated. And so you have to have somebody who's super well trained and I've been trained by the California Institute of Integral Study with one of the preeminent programs that teaches therapists and nurses and doctors about this medicine. And I'm also going through the shamanic initiation process with Pachamama's Sacred Paths under Andres Villa.
That is really awesome. So why don't we move on to number 7. The insights you get while tripping are always true.
That's complicated. I'm going to go ahead and say no, because there's often a great deal of archetypes that you're dealing with. Some things can be confusing. Some things can... I've misinterpreted things when I've been... I told you that I could I have this telepathy when I'm in LSD.
Yep.
I misinterpreted somebody who I knew very well, who I thought who was a terrifying beast in this space. Okay? And my interpretation was, wow, this person is a terrifying beast because this person is there to defend me if I ever get in trouble. That person betrayed me. In real life, very badly, and I realized, wow, I saw the terrifying beast and I dismissed it. I thought that was there to defend me. That person was there to tear me apart, which is what happened. This is what this person did. And so you can misinterpret very easily things that you see, but then later on when you experience your life, you go, oh, that meant that instead of that. And so you have to be careful to be too sure of yourself.
I love that answer, and thank you for giving personal experience on that as well. And so that brings us to number 8. Psychedelics are not for everyone.
Oh, that's true. That's true. This is something that you really need to be called to. There's certain diagnoses that you shouldn't be doing this. It might be too distressing. There's certain physical conditions that may not be indicated for doing this kind of medicine. And there are legitimate, strongly held spiritual beliefs that may preclude people from wanting to do this or believing that this is a good thing. And we're all different people on different journeys, and that's okay. And so it works for you if you're called to Mother Aya, if you're called to the mushroom, that's great. Just make sure that when you're doing it, you understand the dosing, you're with somebody who understands how to care for you, and you're in a space where you're not going to end up running around in a chicken outfit and getting tased by the cops. Real thing.
Was that you?
Oh, no. There's a viral video right now of a poor middle-aged guy running around in a chicken outfit, and of course the cop walks up. Guy's not compliant right away, so he just tases him and tases him and tases him. It's terrible. It's terrible to watch.
Oh, no.
I'm like, what are you doing outside of a house, bro? Go inside.
Well,
worst trip ever.
Yeah, right. I can't imagine one much worse. All right, so that brings us to number 9. You should never talk about your psychedelic experiences with people who haven't done them.
That's a myth. In that, you will know who's receptive to this. There's a lot of people who are really curious. There's some people who find it disturbing and still have like a notion that this medicine is deteriorating your brain. And it may be, you just have to know your audience. It might be disturbing and unhelpful to some people, but other people may find it really informative. And you'll know, I know that when I'm somewhere and I mention that I'm a psychedelic specialist, that people immediately, they want to ask me questions about it. They want to know about it. And so there's a lot of interest out there, but not everybody's the same.
I love that. Thank you very much for that. That brings us to number 10. Psychedelic experiences can bring repressed memories or emotions to the surface.
Well, this is true. I'm going to go with the repressed emotions. Remember when I was talking about grieving everything that had happened to me? That was a deeply meaningful moment for me. Grieving not only terrible things that I've had to endure, because we all have our darkness that we carry with us.
Yeah.
And to actually, instead of just repressing those feelings, to actually grieve them, it was really a beautiful thing. And I had somebody who was there who was going, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was okay. I could feel that I needed to cry that out. I needed to grieve the loss, the fear, the self-doubt, and all of these things. And the ability to do that sort of thing in an enriching environment where you can feel safe. It is a beautiful gift from the earth to grow plants that can help us heal in the way that these plants help us heal.
Awesome. I love that one very much. Okay, so that was number 10. I've got 5 left. Let's try to do these last 5 with just myth or truth.
Okay.
All right, so super lightning round. Ready?
Yep.
All right. Psychedelics cure trauma in one trip.
False.
Number 12. Once you've done psychedelics, traditional therapy becomes unnecessary.
False.
Number 13. Integration is just about journaling your trip afterward.
False.
Alrighty. And number 14. Not all psychedelics are suited for trauma work.
True.
All right, and then number 15. The set and setting play a huge role in the outcome of a psychedelic experience.
Yes. Absolutely true.
Awesome. So, now that we're going through, let me tally up the points here. Yep. 15 out of 15. Jeremy, I think that you get to get the Retrieving Sanity honorary title of the psychedelic expert of recovery.
Thank you.
Yes. We're actually going to come up with a better title because that was just the first thing that popped off my head because it was like, all right, that's a title. It works. So whenever you're back on the show, we're going to have a nice little banner for you and it's just going to actually say the title. I don't know what the actual title will be.
My ego feels so good right now. I won something. It feels good. Thank you.
Yes. And Jeremy, for the last bit of the show, do you have any shout outs real quick?
Yes, I do. I'm the host of the Mindful Mutiny podcast. Please listen on YouTube and Rumble and all of those. Also, mindfulmutiny.com is where to go to find out all the different things that I'm into. I've written a book called There Is More. I do coaching that is about helping I don't just work with psychedelics. I work with couples. I do therapy. I work with people on setting up a strategic plan for their lives and holding people accountable for where they're going. I can do that anywhere with anybody all around the world. And so the work that I do, because I'm ADHD, I have my hand in a lot of different things. And I have a lot of experience in kind of the spirit world. I also work myself from being a lobby security guard to a CEO in my corporate career. And so I want to work with people who are working to become a better version of themselves. I'd like to talk to you.
Awesome. I thank you for all of it. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to having you on again. But Jeremy, for the last question, the name of this podcast is Retrieving Sanity, and we all explore how the facets of living impact our mental health. Looking at the incredible motley adventures of your life, what does retrieving sanity personally mean to you today, and what is one practice or perspective you believe is crucial for anyone on their journey?
I define mental health as looking and living in reality, in the way that reality truly is. When we're trying to avoid reality, that's when we start running into problems. Now, the easiest way that we can look at this is that we are holding on to toxic things. And these are everything from garbage in your kitchen to bad friends, to bad colleagues that we interact with too much. We need to take out the trash in our lives, and we need to bring in light. We are the sum of ambitions of the top 5 people that we have in our lives. So who are the top 5 people in your life? Do they love you for you? Do they promote you? Are they happy when you have a success? If you got $10 million, would they be happy for you, or would they envy you? You ask yourself these questions, take out all of the toxicity in your life and replace it with beautiful things, and watch what happens.
I think that is some very sound and really expert advice. So, Jeremey, I thank you very much for all of your insights, your perspectives, your experiences, everything that you've provided on the podcast this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to having you on again. And one last time for everyone out there, where can they find your website? Mindful Mutiny?
Mindfulmutiny.com.
Awesome. Everyone out there, don't forget, love yourself, love the person next to you if you can. Jeremey, thank you very much for being on the show. Everyone, thank you for listening on WDJY 99.1 FM.